Hey, everybody. Glad that you are here. A lot is going on. These are certainly wild times, but we're here. We're on Rumble, we're on YouTube, and we're on Facebook, and we are going to have a late night chat. So thanks for being here. Let's go.
Spoken of the American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is just a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome back, everybody. Glad that you are here. We're going to follow the same format that we've always done for the most part, with a couple changes tonight. I am going to give my opening remarks. They won't be too long tonight. I'm just going to touch on everything that's been going on, including what's been happening on this channel, but also world events, most especially world events. Then we'll do a roll call, just like we always do. And then from there, I will answer people's questions. Now, if you're on the Rumble, send me a Rumble rant. As you know, you can no longer send super chats because YouTube decided to demonetize this channel. We'll be talking about that. So send me a Cash App. If you got a question, Cash App me. You can put the question in the Cash App. Caleb Maupin 22 on Cash App, and you can put the question in the Cash App, or if you would like, you can Cash App me and then say the name in the chat and do it that way. Doesn't really matter to me, but you can donate on Cash App, and I will get those instantaneously. I get a notification when Cash App comes through. We can do it that way, or you can send a Rumble rant. Cash App is probably the best, simply because I get the Cash App funds immediately. Rumble, it takes a million years for you to get paid. I mean, Rumble, they send you the check and you get it like 4 months later, and it's in Canadian funds, so then you have to take it to the bank, and then it takes the bank a month to process it. And Rumble, I mean, if you want a Rumble rant, I'll take it. But the best way is probably Cash App. So, and because we can't do super chats anymore, Cash App is the best way to reach us. But yeah, as far as announcements, we do have an event coming up in Los Angeles. We are having a Center for Political Innovation retreat in LA, a one-day workshop. It's going to be awesome. I can actually put the image of that on the screen. The LA workshop is coming up, and yeah, this is the LA workshop. There's the QR code to register. I know folks are working very hard to make it a success. We got the place reserved. I'll be headed out to LA at the end of April. April 19th is the date. I will be there in LA for that workshop. It's going to be good. So go ahead and register if you're in California. If you'd like to come to our one-day workshop out in Los Angeles. And everything is building up to our national convention that is set to take place in Chicago this summer, July 12th, 2025. This will be the biggest event that we've ever done, and we've got a lot of work to do to build it. Every Thursday, we're having a meeting about how we're going to build this convention, all kinds of meetings set up, great innovations. Members are innovating right now. It's really, really tremendous to see what members are doing, right? We've got a member who's organizing a demonstration in their own city about the bombing of Yemen, opposing the bombing of Yemen. We got another member who's starting an outreach poster campaign, designed a beautiful poster. Members of CPI are innovating, and I love it. And the center, the dawn of innovation, Innovationism, will be convening for our national convention, July 12th, 2025 in Chicago. If there's one event that you come to this year, make it this one. July 12th, 2025, we are going to have an all-day mega anti-imperialist rally at the Midwest Conference Center in Chicago, Illinois. It's going to be absolutely awesome. So I will see you in Chicago. There's a QR code on the screen where you can register. So yeah, we'll be following the same format that we always use. First, my opening remarks, then the roll call, then I'll answer whatever questions we've got on the Rumble. You got Rumble Rant questions, and then Cash App me. Send me a couple bucks on Cash App with your question. Caleb Maupin 22 on Cash App is the best way to send a question. As I said, Cash App is the best way I would prefer because the money is instantaneous. With Rumble, it takes a really, really long time. But am I on here to make money? Not really. No, I'm on here to spread the message, and that's what we're here to do. So let's first talk about the channel. Let's just talk about the fact that on Saturday morning, I woke up to find an email from YouTube telling me that I had been demonetized. Why was I demonetized? I did not receive a strike. They didn't give me a strike on this channel. I have never had a strike on this channel of any kind. I did not get a strike. All I got on this channel was I made a video a couple weeks ago when a certain U.S. government policy changed. A certain U.S. government policy changed, and I made a super chat saying that I did not agree with it. And in response to that, this channel was demonetized. Wow. They took the video down and they gave me a warning. And what was particularly interesting was that the video that I made was that I said that a certain group in a certain country should not be designated as terrorists. I said that a certain U.S. government policy change, right? The Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act was signed into law by Bill Clinton. Under that law, the U.S. State Department can designate certain organizations as terrorists. I took exception to one of those organizations being designated as terrorists, which is my right. That organization was designated as terrorist by Donald Trump. Then when Biden came in, he lifted that designation. And then part of the new moves of the Trump administration was to reimpose that. I made a video saying that I agreed, surprisingly, with the Joe Biden policy. I thought they should not be designated as terrorists. That was enough to get not only the video removed, but my channel completely demonetized, which according to Team YouTube, apparently I won't be able to change that, which is shocking to me because, the notification I received said that in 90 days, I will be able to reapply because I did not receive a strike. Then in 90 days, I'll be able to reapply for monetization. However, when I tweeted at Team YouTube about this, they informed me, no, this is permanent. You'll be never eligible for remonetization. And they also tweeted at me that I received a strike. I have not received a strike that I'm aware of. I've only received a warning. This whole situation is completely absurd. Now, I think I have the right to question a U.S. government policy. Look, are they going to take Joe Biden's channel down? Are they going to, the U.S., government, there were announcements that Joe Biden said this organization was no longer designated as terrorist. They're going to take his YouTube channel down. That's the whole thing is ridiculous. What is the point of having a policy that can change if you're not allowed to question, if you're not allowed to disagree? That whole thing is ridiculous. I must say, though, YouTube absolutely sucks. YouTube absolutely sucks. I will be applying in 90 days for monetization. You betcha. And we're going to keep the heat on them. One thing we can do is I would ask people, tweet at Team YouTube, tell them to restore my account. Because something happened to a friend of ours a couple years ago for a very similar situation. Somebody, I don't want I don't know if it would help him if I shouted his name out here and, you know, and drew attention to what happened, but he made a documentary about free speech, and they flagged it as if it was supporting the January 6th insurrection. It was not, but because it was a documentary about free speech, because it had some footage of January 6th in it, they flagged it as supporting insurrection, supporting January 6th, even though he was clearly not supporting January 6th. It was said it was dumb, said it was stupid. And they did the exact same thing. They did the exact same thing to our friend. And I don't want to highlight because I don't want someone to go flag his video again, but a great member of our community, a great person. I'm sure you all know who it is. I just don't want to draw attention to his video because I don't want him to get, flagged again. And he got the same thing. He did what I did. He appealed it and they denied it. And then they just changed their minds after enough people tweeted at them. So what I am requesting that people do is tweet at Team YouTube. Take the time to take a tweet, very easy hashtag at Team YouTube, and tell them that my video was not supporting illegal activities, was not supporting terrorism, was simply questioning an official U.S. government designation, and that they should reinstate me. And tweet that at them, and that would help. That would be appreciated. The whole situation is very, very strange. That said, I wrote a book that you all probably know about. I wrote this book, and I went on Rumble with Kim Iverson to discuss the book. I went on Rumble with Kim Iverson to discuss that book, and you can watch the interview I did with Kim Iverson. We talked for at least 30 minutes. It might have been a 40-minute interview about this book and, what's in it. I'm very proud of this book, by the way, and I've got another interview lined up Sunday. It was originally going to be Thursday, but Sunday I'm going on with Due Dissonance to also talk about this book. But we're going to have to be careful about all of this. Now, it's all pretty ridiculous that, the U.S. government has a policy, it rescinds the policy, it reinstates the policy, and then if you say that they were right to rescind the policy, you get your channel demonetized. That's completely ridiculous, right? I understand that if I were on here advocating violence or threatening people or advocating illegal activity or giving people instructions about how to do illegal things or something like that, sure. But simply saying that a U.S. government policy is wrong and that the way a certain organization is perceived is wrong, that's bullshit. That is some bullshit. And, but I wanted to mention YouTube not only sucks because of this. Lately, and many people have noticed this, views are dropping on almost every good channel on YouTube. And I mean, it's not just here. Yeah, we've had a significant decrease in our views, but it ain't just us. Every good channel on YouTube is suddenly having a lot of trouble getting views. They have messed with the algorithm. And you look at every good anti-imperialist channel, the views have dropped significantly. They are messing with the algorithm in a way that is to the detriment of anti-imperialist voices. I mean, RT is completely banned from YouTube. So is Sputnik Radio. So is anyone, in Russian media. But then on top of that, all the good anti-imperialist channels have seen a huge decrease in views in the last 2 or 3 months. And we've seen that, and so has everyone we know. And that is just more of a sign that we need to pivot away from this platform. So I'm on Rumble, and we're on Rumble right now. There's 15 people watching on Rumble right now. Honestly, there should be more people watching on Rumble. We might, at some point after the opening remarks, go to Rumble only, just because of the fact that basically y'all need to get on Rumble, right? I mean, this channel is great. This channel is grand, but who knows what they could do, right? I mean, the way they're enforcing the rules at this point is insane. It's insane. So I would recommend getting on Rumble, because Rumble seems to at this point be the free speech platform. And thank you, the people that are Cash Apping, right? We got John McCarthy sent a Cash App with a message, read Scott Ritter's tweet. And Garland Nixon, our friend, he also sent a Cash App, no message, just a statement of support. And we appreciate that. If you'd like me to comment on something, send a Cash App. Caleb Maupin 22 is the best way to send a question if you got one. But yeah, at this point, YouTube is dying as a platform. It looks like, for a while, YouTube was better, but it looks like YouTube is not where it's at. YouTube is not where it's at. And I mean, the fact that it's so obviously controlled, I got my channel demonetized on Saturday because of a video I made that highlighted this book. And this book is about a certain organization in a certain country. And at the same time, the U.S. government started bombing a certain country and a certain organization. And if that doesn't tell you how obvious this is, do you think they did it on a random day? No. Do you think they did it on the day that designations were changed? No. This was, as part of their bombing campaign, they wanted to make sure that voices that would speak in favor of this organization and in favor of and tell the other side of the story would be suppressed. That's basically what's going on. And so it was a coordinated decision. They demonetized our channel on the same day they started dropping bombs. I've got a lot more to say about that as well. And John already sent me a Cash App telling me to read Scott Ritter's tweet. And I will definitely be doing that. And I've got a lot to say about what's going on with the Trump administration. But yes, if you've got questions for the second half of the show, send Rumble rants or cash. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. So if you got questions for the second half of the show, Rumble rants or Cash App, Caleb Maupin 22. And that's the way we'll be doing it. And yeah, so what happened today? Donald Trump spoke with Russian President Vladimir Putin on the phone. And honestly, look, we can't expect them to end the war in a single phone call. But the results of today's phone call were good. Now, this is what was said by Donald Trump about the phone call. He said, "My phone conversation today with President Putin of Russia was a very good and productive one. We agreed to an immediate ceasefire on all energy and infrastructure, with an understanding that we will be working quickly to have a complete ceasefire and ultimately end this horrible war between Russia and Ukraine. This war would never have started if I were president. Many elements of a contract for peace were discussed, including the fact that thousands of soldiers are being killed, and both President Putin and President Zelensky would like to see it end. That process is now in full force in effect, and we will hopefully, for the sake of humanity, get the job done." And it appears that the details of the peace agreement are going to be worked out in Saudi Arabia, and the war is going to end. And that's what it appears will be the case. Now, the terms of that war ending, obviously there's going to be a border between Ukraine and Russia. Where that border is probably going to be part of the agreement that ends the conflict. Also, in addition to that, it's worth pointing out that there's a huge amount of sanctions on Russia. And part of what we understand was discussed was energy cooperation. And that means lifting sanctions on energy companies, American oil companies, and American energy companies doing business with Russian energy companies. So we shall see. Now, what Donald Trump is doing in the Middle East is absolutely horrible. However, it seems to fit a pattern that I have noticed. Donald Trump did not mention Israel in his State of the Union speech. Donald Trump also, you will notice, is now directly negotiating with Hamas. And when that was revealed, Donald Trump then went into overdrive, trying to deport Mahmoud Khalil, who still remains in federal custody. Absolutely outrageous. You cannot deport someone for their political views. And on top of that, in addition to that, now Donald Trump has conducted airstrikes against Yemen. And Yemen responded. They attacked a U.S. Navy ship, the USS Truman. The USA says, let me emphasize, the USA says all the drones were deflected. Now, you'll notice that the last time the USA struck Yemen, Yemen retaliated on a number of U.S. ships, and the USA said no casualties. We deflected all the retaliation. But then it was revealed in certain press releases that there were 4 U.S. Navy personnel who died in the Red Sea. And the U.S. media didn't emphasize that they were killed by Yemeni forces. But it wasn't explained how they died. And they died in the Red Sea. And it appears that, the Yemeni forces are in the Red Sea, and they were targeting U.S. military personnel in the Red Sea. And it seems like last spring, when we were, the USA was striking Yemen again, at least 4 Navy sailors, were killed. And the USA, it was almost like, on the one hand, they didn't want to give the Houthis that victory. Number 2, they didn't want to then have to respond, because if it was understood widely that Yemeni forces killed U.S. military personnel, if that was understood, then, the administration would be embarrassed. They would have to retaliate, and we'd have World War III. So I'm telling you, I don't honestly believe that necessarily no U.S. military personnel were killed in the retaliation by the Houthis. It's possible. But I don't know. And many people who have been in the military have told me that what we hear about conflicts, and especially maritime conflicts, is usually bull honky, right? It's usually very different than what actually happened on the battlefield. Sometimes it happens 2 days later. We hear about it 2 days later as if it had happened 2 days after it happened. There's been many maritime incidents where Iran bumps into an American ship, or an airplane flies over something. And so I'm not convinced that the Houthis did not succeed in taking the lives of American servicemen. That's awful, though. I mean, the idea that any American serviceman would die for Israel, to make sure that Israel's able to, stock their stores full of Twinkies and ding dongs and toilet paper while they're bombing Gaza. That's absolutely absurd. The Houthis, you'll remember, they stopped stopping ships during the ceasefire. When there was a ceasefire in Gaza, they said, all right, that's our demand, is that we will block ships unless there's a ceasefire. There was a ceasefire, so the Houthis said, all right, we're not blocking ships. Well, the ceasefire is over. Israel killed 400 Palestinians today, right, and ended their ceasefire. Well, the Houthis have ended their, they've continued blocking ships. And because of that, the USA now is striking them. And so then, in response to the USA striking them, and in response to Israel killing 400 Palestinians, the Yemeni forces then launched a missile at Israel. So we have to see what happens next. The USA continues to be bombing Yemen around the clock. That's happening. And we don't know where this could lead. Now, we do know that on the phone call between the Russian leader and Donald Trump, Russian President Putin, and U.S. President Donald Trump, they talked about the Middle East. So that seems to indicate that there was discussion of the Middle East, right? Russia is very close to the Islamic Republic of Iran. Russia opposes what the Yemeni forces are doing, but Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, told the leaders of the United States they should not respond to Yemen with violence. They need to talk and negotiate with Yemen. And look, you have to remember that there's nuance to all of this, right? Russia can't embrace what Yemeni forces are doing, because if they did at that point, then it's open season on their ships, right? Look, it's illegal what Yemen is doing, what the Houthis are doing. It's illegal. I've never denied that it's illegal. It is absolutely illegal what they are doing. So is Israel's bombing of Gaza. And, illegal activity goes on generally. And I mean, a picket line is also illegal, right? If a group of workers are on strike and they are blocking the doors of the company and blocking people from getting into that business as part of their demand to get a union contract, that is illegal. It is illegal to prevent people from going into a store or going into a business if they want to get in. But that's something labor unions have historically done. It's called a picket line. And what I have generally described what Ansar Allah is doing. I've described it as a picket line. It is a naval picket line. It's a picket line in the Red Sea. And yeah, it's illegal. It is absolutely illegal. What they're doing. I've never denied that it's illegal. It's illegal. So is what Israel's doing. And they are engaging in illegal activity to stop illegal activity. And they feel that this is their moral obligation. So Donald Trump responding to them violently, and it's not going to help the situation, and they're not going to back down. And I got into great detail, and I need to stop talking about this issue for the moment, but I got into great detail about why it's not wise to strike Yemen, why it's not wise to designate them as they're designated, because you can't negotiate with people if you put this label on them. And this is an escalation, and this is what could lead to World War III. This is World War III-like territory, right? And what Donald Trump tweeted about Iran, that's nuts, right? That's absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. And it could really get out of control. Now, about the phone call that happened with Russian President Putin and Trump today. Laura Ingraham did like a follow-up with Trump about the phone call, and I'm just going to put on the screen what was said there.
Readout of your call with Vladimir Putin, and it was a fairly optimistic take. Vladimir Putin agreed to a ceasefire immediately on energy and infrastructure, right, but not to a 30-day ceasefire. Tell us what happened.
Well, you have a situation where you have a lot of guns pointing at each other foolishly, because it would have never happened if I were president. That was not a war that was supposed to happen. And it did happen. So that's where we are. And right now, you have a lot of guns pointing at each other. And a ceasefire without going a little bit further would have been tough. Russia has the advantage, as you know. They have encircled about 2,500 soldiers. They are nicely encircled, and that's not good. And we want to get it over with. Look, we're doing this. There are no Americans involved. There could be if you end up in World War III over this, which is so ridiculous. But, strange things happen. And I think we had a great call. It lasted almost 2 hours. Talked about a lot of things and toward getting it to peace. And we talked about other things also.
So, yeah. So he's saying there that Russia has agreed to, at this point, there will be complete hands-off all energy infrastructure. And then from there, they're negotiating the terms. Now, one of the issues is that you have a number of Ukrainian soldiers that are in the Russian territory of Kursk, and they're surrounded. And as far as Russia is concerned, these folks are terrorists. I mean, they invaded their country. They engaged in crimes as they were there, and that as far as Russia is concerned, these folks are terrorists, etc. Russia would be, perfectly justified in arresting these folks, doing what any country would do to terrorist invaders on foreign soil. However, as a result of today's call, it looks like they will be allowed to surrender. And they will be returned. There's also going to be a prisoner exchange, 175 prisoners from Russia and 175 prisoners from Ukraine. There's going to be a prisoner swap. that's been arranged. And the war itself, the terms of the war ending are going to be worked out in Saudi Arabia. Now, Donald Trump, see, here's the thing. We got to not think in terms of good guys and bad guys, right? We got to think in terms of, because it appears to me that the Trump administration is in a very, very odd situation where they're trying to keep all kinds of different people happy. And they are ultimately working in their own interest. And look, that's one thing people say about Donald Trump. I have never disagreed with that. Donald Trump is working for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is absolutely selfish. Bingo. And that's honestly why having him as the commander-in-chief of U.S. imperialism is good. He's not a team player for empire. Donald Trump is selfish. He cares about himself. And that means he might do things that would advance his image as a political leader, his reputation, that are not in the interest of imperialism. Donald Trump does not want to go down in history as the guy who started World War III. Donald Trump doesn't want to go down in history as a guy who wrecked the economy. And so it may be that the needs of imperialism are one thing and he will do the opposite. And that's why, and they blatantly say that. And if you read the stuff that's said by the voices on CNN and other places that don't like Donald Trump, that's what they say, that he's somebody who will do what he thinks is in his own interest and not what is in the interest of imperialism overall. And that's what they can't stand about the guy. That's what makes them angry. And that's what I like about him. But that doesn't mean that he's where we're at. Donald Trump is not where we're at, right? Donald Trump is he's got a big coalition of people around him, many of which are super pro-Israel, many of which have a standard U.S. foreign policy narrative, some of which disagree on that and this. And he's trying to keep them all happy. And that's when I listened to this, this reminded me of some of his rhetoric during the presidential campaign. And it also struck me as him trying to please different people. Here we go.
Criticism that you've heard since really 2015 is that you have more in common with Vladimir Putin than you do with globalist leaders, maybe some NATO leaders, and in this case, with Zelensky. You're both nationalists. Zelensky's more of a globalist. How do you respond to that criticism?
Well, I am a nationalist, but I'm a nationalist for the United States, not for anybody else. And it's interesting because there's nobody been tougher on Russia than me. I'm the one that pointed out Nord Stream 2, and I stopped it. Nord Stream's the biggest pipeline, I guess, in the world, taking care of all of Europe. And it was being built from before I got there. And they were on the way. It was going to be, and I stopped it. It was just stone cold dead. I stopped it in its tracks. That's not somebody that's being particularly nice. It was the biggest project they ever had. I had it stopped. When Biden got in, he immediately approved it, like immediately. One of the first things he did in office was he approved Nord Stream 2. Nobody ever heard of Nord Stream 2 until I was president. I said, what are you doing? You mean you're building a pipeline to Germany and various places in Europe. You're paying them billions of dollars a month, and then we're paying a lot of money to fight them. This is not going to work out well. And it stopped, and then Biden approved it, which was a really stupid thing to do, but he did it. And Putin actually said to me, if you're my friend, I'd hate to see you as my enemy. He said that very strongly. But with all of that, I had a very good relationship with Putin. I had a very good relationship with President Xi, a very good relationship with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. Lots of good relationships. And that's a positive thing. That's not a negative thing. But at the same time, I'm about our country. So that's why we're talking about tariffs. We'll be taking in trillions of dollars.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot wrong with what Donald Trump just said there. I mean, you could just make a checklist of everything wrong with what he said, but that's not really as important as why he said it. All right. I mean, because, it's a U.S. leader. You expect him to say things that are wrong. I mean, first of all, he says he's a nationalist for the United States. Well, the United States is not a nation, right? A nation is a group of people with a common culture, common language, common economy. That's not America, right? You've got many different cultures here, many different languages, many different regions and territories. The USA is not a nation state. It never has been. USA is a country, but it has many different nationalities in it. And there is no American nation. That's the first thing. But from there, he said, Nord Stream 2, he was against it. Well, Obama was against it before him, and Biden blew the damn thing up. I mean, and what in the world how is that any of America's business? If Germany wants to buy natural gas from Russia, which is right next to them, why not? Right? I mean, if you're in Germany, you think, okay, am I going to buy natural gas from all the way in America across the Atlantic? Or am I going to buy natural gas from my neighbor in Russia? What makes sense? Well, if you're Germany, you're going to buy natural gas from Russia because it's way cheaper to ship it from right there in Europe, in Russia, than it is to get it all the way from the United States. And so you build a pipeline into Germany, Nord Stream 2. All right, now we can get our natural gas not that far from Russia. And why is that America's concern? Oh, because they have to buy natural gas from us. Why? Who said? Who said that we should dominate the global oil and gas markets, right? If Germany is a sovereign country and Russia is a sovereign country, the two countries have the right to sell each other oil and natural gas. End of story. So he's trying to get credit for something that, it's a violation of Germany's sovereignty. It's a violation of Russia's sovereignty. The USA has absolutely no grounds. If you want if you want Germany to buy their natural gas from the United States rather than Russia, offer them a better deal. Sell it to them cheaper. Try to put them out of business. I don't know. Give Germany something for it. The idea that somehow Germany shouldn't be allowed to buy Russia's gas is nuts. So him trying to get credit for saying that, which Obama did say that. And there's been huge efforts to drive Russia off the oil and gas markets. Since the time of the Soviet Union, there's been efforts to do that. So that's absurd. Then he's saying, well, Biden approved it. No, Biden blew it up. Biden blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. So, if you want to get points for being against the Nord Stream pipeline, I'm sorry, Biden's got you beat on that. He blew the damn thing up. And he said that he basically announced he would do it. And it was all over social media. All kinds of countries were thanking him for doing it. Seymour Hersh and others have come forward. It's pretty clear the Nord Stream pipeline was blown up by the United States. And there you go. So Trump trying to take credit for it is odd. But then Trump says he had a better relationship with Russia. True. He had a better relationship with China and President Xi. True. He had a better relationship with Kim Jong-un. True. So, hey, it's all over the place. It's all over the place what Trump said there. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump is saying, look, I am trying to please many different people. Right. And he's trying to please the oil and gas companies. And that seems to be a big thing that came out of the call. The oil and gas companies see Russia as a competitor. Right. Russia, the way that they rebooted their economy after the fall of the Soviet Union was by making the economy centered around oil and gas revenue. Putin created, he put Gazprom and Rosneft, two state-controlled energy companies, at the center of the Russian economy. He used the revenue from oil and gas to reboot the economy. That's what he did, and that's how he rescued Russia from the disaster of the fall of the Soviet Union, and he did a pretty good job of it. And so the big oil and gas companies see Russia as a competitor. They see Russia as a competitor, and because they see Russia as a competitor, they would like to force Russia off the markets. However, there is a history of ExxonMobil, having partnerships with Gazprom and Rosneft. There are some, times that American energy companies have been able to cooperate with Russia. So Trump is clearly going for we can cooperate with Russia to make money and, energy infrastructure, ceasefire and energy cooperation. And it looks like Trump is trying to say, look, I will figure out a way that we can have peace with Russia in a way that is beneficial to the American energy sector. Now, that's interesting. I've talked a lot about the divide between big oil and little oil. I've talked a lot about that on here over the years about, the fracking companies that really hate the big four super majors and that the fracking companies tend to be Republican and very conservative. A lot of the Tea Party and a lot of the basis of what eventually became, Donald Trump's movement was money from the fracking companies. Whereas, the big four super majors, a lot of their money goes into a lot of woke stuff and into a lot of environmentalism because they get to write the laws. The environmental laws. So I've written a lot about that over the years. And it looks like Donald Trump is trying to, at the very least, appeal to people like the Koch brothers, people like the fracking companies, et cetera, and say, look, I'm going to do this in a way that benefits American energy interests. So that is also interesting. And it appears that what came out of the phone call, this is also very interesting, is that Russia and the United States agreed that Iran should never have the ability to destroy Israel. Now, that is a very odd statement. It's very, very, very odd, because generally, the way it's framed in American media is that Iran should never be able to have nuclear weapons, right? Israel has a stockpile of nuclear weapons. And they allege that Iran is trying to get nuclear weapons, which they aren't. They have peaceful nuclear energy. But that's not what they said. They said Iran should never be in a position to destroy Israel, not to get nuclear weapons, but they should never be in a position to destroy Israel. What does that mean? Right? I don't even know what that means. Right? No, I mean, in theory, Iran advocates the defeat of Israel. They don't recognize Israel as a country. And I believe during the Iraq-Iran war, when the supreme leader Khomeini, the founder of the Islamic Republic, was fighting with Iraq, one of the slogans he used, he said, the road to Al-Quds or Jerusalem is through Karbala. Karbala is a city in Iraq that is sacred to Shia Muslims because there was a battle there where one of the imams, I think Imam Hussein, was martyred. And he said the road to Al-Quds, the road to Jerusalem, to reseizing Jerusalem, is through Karbala, right? That was a slogan used in the Iraq-Iran war, and that I believe Khomeini did say that the Shia Islamic Revolution would destroy Israel. So in theory, Iran does advocate the abolition of Israel as a Jewish state, right? That is in theory what they want to do. Are they trying to amass an army to do that? I don't think so. And I mean, they have done a lot to support the Palestinians, et cetera. But at this point, the struggle of the Palestinians is almost purely defensive. I mean, they're being eradicated. We talked about the open air prison and all of that. So the idea that, that's just such an odd thing. I mean, I can understand that Russia, that has diplomatic relations with Israel, the United States, huge supporter of Israel, they would agree that Iran should never be able to destroy Israel. That's just such an odd thing. And again, they're not agreeing that Iran should never have nuclear weapons, right? Because Israel's already got nuclear weapons. Israel has not signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel has nuclear weapons. If Iran had a nuclear weapon, they still wouldn't be able to destroy Israel because Israel would strike them first. Israel could retaliate. But that's not included. That's not what they said. Iran should never have the ability to destroy Israel. That is weird. That's all I can just say about it. I mean, I understand that Russia and the United States would agree on that point. And there you go. But why that choice of words, right? And so I think when it comes to the Ukraine war, we're moving in a good direction. And honestly, as bad as the situation looks right now with Mahmoud Khalil and with the end of the ceasefire in Gaza and with the airstrikes on Yemen, honestly, I'm getting hints and I'm seeing that behind the scenes, things may actually be moving in a better direction. I didn't say a good direction necessarily. I said a better direction when it comes to the Israel-Palestine conflict, because there is direct negotiation going on, because Tulsi Gabbard tried to nominate and appoint an anti-Israel person to be her deputy ambassador, Daryl Davis, or her deputy intelligence director, Daryl Davis. And all of this makes me wonder if Donald Trump is actually going to take a move that will rebuke Netanyahu. And there's that stuff is trickling out about, there are things that Hamas and the White House have agreed to that Netanyahu won't go along with. There are 24 hostages that remain held by Hamas at this point. Just 24 people, not a huge amount, right? We're talking 24 people, right? There was more people in my fourth grade class. I had a fourth grade class of 32 people in my little, town in Ohio. I had one teacher, and he taught 32 kids, right? He was a man, a Mennonite conservative man. Can you imagine one teacher in a room of 32 kids? But, there's only 24 hostages left. So smaller than my fourth grade class, the number of hostages that are left. Now there is negotiation going on about how those hostages will be released, what the terms will be. The ceasefire that Trump was able to bring about has ended. Now, Biden was never able to get a ceasefire. Trump got a ceasefire as soon as he came in. That ceasefire is over, and Israel brutally murdered 400 Palestinians today. There's a lot here, right? I'm not here to convince you Donald Trump is good, and I'm not here to convince you that Donald Trump is going to defeat American imperialism or something like that. I'm here to tell you that it's complicated, and we'll be reading a really important tweet from Scott Ritter in the second half of the show. John McCarthy, sent in a super chat for me to read that, and I see John McCarthy. We've gotten a couple more super chats that have already come in. Patricia Leary sent me one. And I do appreciate it. And John McCarthy sent me another one, for he saved Russia from Clinton and Yeltsin. And so, we'll be answering all of that in the second half of the show. And I do appreciate it. And, Rumble rants, we got another Rumble rant that's already come in. So we're getting stuff coming in, but if you can send, Cash App, that'd be great, because we can't do super chats anymore because we're demonetized. But at this point, I just want to tell you how important the Center for Political Innovation, our organization, is. And that may sound like a hokey thing to say or whatever. I'm just telling you it's really, really important. And our organization is really important because we're not on here trying to get views, and we're not on here trying to win the internet. We're here building a real community. And, I'll just tell you what happened yesterday. So yesterday, a member of our organization called me up, and she said, I'm really upset that they're bombing Yemen. What can I do about it? And I thought, wow, what can she do about it? And I said, well, maybe you want to organize a small rally. And she said, okay, I'll do that. And it's happening. It's happening. She's organizing a small rally in her city. It's happening. There will be a small demonstration against the bombing of Yemen. That's amazing, right? And she just said, look, I want to do something. I want to do something. And she's organizing it. I think that's absolutely tremendous. In addition to that, on today, another member of CPI had an idea for outreach that we could do. Messages me, hey, Caleb, look at this poster I designed. This is a great way we can do a certain type of outreach we've discussed. I just designed this poster. What do you think? I said, awesome. I love it. This is great. And this is what shows me that we are a real organization, right? This isn't a group of people who do stuff when I call them up and say, all right. No, these are people. These are people who really believe in the cause and really believe in what we stand for and are innovating and thinking of ways to do it themselves. And that's great. That's absolutely tremendous. And that is what we need more of. We need more of that. In addition to that, one of our members was honored by the Uhuru movement, right? The Uhuru movement had their national convention this weekend. And one of our members was a speaker at the convention. But the night before, John McCarthy, our member, was honored for all of his solidarity work. They gave him a special award for all the solidarity work that he's done. That video is on this channel. already. And the Uhuru movement has over and over again said that we were the main group that stood with them. I mean, we did more for the Uhuru movement when they got their homes raided by the FBI than anybody else. We were there for them from day one, and we stood with them. We supported them. We raised their case internationally. We raised their case at the United Nations. We one way or another, we were always with the Uhuru movement. And they know that. And again, and we're building a network of people that can successfully carry out operations, and we're learning in the process. We are learning while leading. We are leading while learning. And if you want to change things, you got to learn things. And if you want to learn things, you've got to change things, right? And this is a process, and we are becoming much more effective as an organization. And we have very big plans for building our national convention coming up in Chicago. And every Wednesday night, we're having a recruiting and outreach meeting about ways to make sure that's happening. I've got a trip to Chicago planned. I'm heading to Chicago in the next couple weeks. I'm going to be in Chicago with Peter and Peter Coffin and myself, and we're going to be there, and we're going to get the ball rolling in terms of outreach to build our national convention. We're doing it. We're doing it. And the fact that social media is, YouTube, like I said, numbers have dropped very significantly, not just on this channel, but on a lot of channels. And now they're messing with my monetization. They basically don't want me on this platform anymore. It's just fine, but this all tells me that, the dynamics are rapidly changing. What we are doing by building an organization, that can carry out real operations to build anti-imperialism among the American people, what we are doing is becoming something that many people are looking for. Many people are looking for community. And people are just kind of tired of content, right? At this point, AI is churning out all kinds of content, all kinds of fake videos, all kinds of stuff. And people are kind of sick. People are just kind of, saturated with content. People want real meaningful relationships, real meaningful activities to change the world. They don't want to be told, watch a podcast. They don't want to be told, retweet something. They want to be told, I can be part of this group. I can be part of this organization. That's what they want to be told. We have an organization, and this is a real organization. Look, I have long said that the problem with fandom is that fandom becomes less and less about politics over time, and it becomes more and more just about personalities. I'm watching that in real time right now, unfortunately, right? There's certain train wrecks, they say, a car accident, you just can't look away. There's certain car accidents that are adjacent to us that I'm watching. And it's almost like there's hands coming out of these car accidents trying to pull our organization into them. And we are doing our darndest, our best to not get pulled into somebody else's car accident. I'm looking at these car accidents happening, and I notice that they're less and less political, right? And I mean, you look at it, there's a lot of communities that used to talk the way we talk, used to talk about the issues that we talked about. And now all of a sudden, they're not talking about politics, and they're not really engaged in any activism. They're following drama related to internet personalities that are fighting with them and blah, 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 blah. And we got a job to do. We got a job to do, and we just got to not get involved in their car accident and their train wreck. And as much as they want to make us part of their drama, we just got to look the other way. We're not building an online fandom. And you know what? We have to get ready. We have to get ready to assume that every distraction and provocation is going to be thrown our way. And we just have to be prepared to just keep going full speed ahead, and just not ask questions, not get distracted by it, right? I'm on here to communicate with all of you, to give you all political orientation, to inspire you, to show you what's happening around the world, to show you what our organization is doing, to give analysis about world events, etc. That's what I'm on here to do. But other than that, we're not trying to recruit through the internet. That's tapped out, and the internet's rigged. We're here to communicate with people, and we're here to recruit in real life by building a real organization. That's what we're here to do. We just have to face forward, full speed ahead. That's all we can do. I wanted to throw this out there. I just wanted to throw this out there. The order that we're living in, dying imperialism, it needs degrowth. And that is a point that we have made over and over and over again on these streams, right? We go back to the book Fascism and Social Revolution by R. Palm Dutt. He talks about the essence of Nazi economics was destroying the productive forces to stabilize capitalism. We talk about Malthusianism, the idea of overpopulation. The problem isn't capitalism and the irrationality of the market. The problem is just there's too many people. We need to drive down living conditions. And when people nowadays talk about the World Economic Forum, you'll own nothing and be happy about it. You'll live in a pod, you'll eat bugs, right? And how there's no room for working people in this hyper, post-industrial economy with AI and all of that, and that there's no room for us in production, and self-driving cars are going to put us all out of business. All of this is that the irrational system that we live under, where profits come before people, where giant corporations are operating to maximize their profits, it needs to destroy humanity and to grind back the wheels of history in order to survive. And humanity doesn't want to be erased. Humanity doesn't want to grind back the wheels of history. Human beings want more than they already have. We are tool-making creatures. We innovate, we invent, we create, we build, we construct. That is the nature of humanity. So, the needs of the system and the ultra-rich monopolies to stay at the top, they need to destroy the productive forces and grind the world into poverty, reduce the population so they can stay at the top. Meanwhile, humanity, all levels of humanity, we all want more, we want to build. That's the essence of what it means to be human. All three dissident ideologies, and this is what I've come to realize, all three schools of dissident thought, in essence, want growth. Great example, libertarian, Angela McCurdle. She's a libertarian. And she recently was tweeting on her post, she was tweeting something against communism. And I thought, I could argue with her about communism. But instead, I'm going to answer it this way. And below her post, I wrote, the only way we can ever get true equality and really have true freedom is with vast abundance and increasing of productive forces. And she agreed. And if you look at what the bulk of libertarians want, what they really want is economic growth. They just think that the way to get economic growth is with capitalism, with the free market. They deny that capitalism creates monopolies. They deny that capitalism has this built-in problem of value crisis, overproduction, and the tendency of the falling rate of profits. They really believe that capitalism will create endless growth. And that's why they want it. Well, I would disagree with that. And that's it. The essence of genuine libertarians is they want economic growth. However, there's a huge effort to pollute the libertarian movement with something else, right? I'm against authority. I hate poor, all kinds of other stuff. But the essence of what they want is growth. And you look at, I guess we'll talk about our own circles or our own history. We come out of communism. What is the essence of communism? What Karl Marx originally wrote about was that capitalism has this problem of the productive forces being irrational, poverty created by abundance, poverty amid plenty. People are homeless because there's too many houses. People are hungry because there's too much food. And you need rational planning of the economy so that you can overcome that. And then with a centrally planned economy, with a centrally planned economy, the springs of cooperative wealth can flow more abundantly. We can have so much more economic growth that the need for a state can wither away. And that Frederick Engels makes the analogy in the book Socialism, Utopian and Scientific. He says that capitalism and socialism, the difference between them is like the difference between lightning and a telegraph wire, right? They're both electricity, but one is concentrated and rationally controlled to, serve man, and the other is chaotic, right? And that right now, all the energy of the productive forces is following the anarchy of production, the chaos of the market. We want a rationally organized economy so that the power of the economy can be rationally organized so that we can have growth. The essence of communism is wanting growth. However, just like in libertarian circles, there's a huge effort to make communism not about growth, to make communism about destruction, to make communism about degrowth, to make communism about tearing people down and revenge and all. The essence of communism is it's about growth. And even the far right, if you look at the essence of, and this is not going to be a popular thing to say, if you look at the essence of what fascists promised, not what they actually did, but what they promised economic growth. Hitler didn't come to power saying he was going to kill all the Jews. He came to power saying, I will get every German employed. He promised to create economic growth. Right? Mussolini, his theory, it was called super capitalism. He said, I am going to create economic growth. I'm going to have, the corporate state and super capitalism. I'm going to create economic growth. Well, they didn't do that, right? And Hitler ended up, not only did he use degrowth methods to stabilize the German economy, he ended up, committing the Holocaust, crimes against humanity, launching World War II. He didn't do that. But the essence of what he was promising was economic growth. And that really at the heart of this is that humanity has an inherent drive to build, to construct, to innovate, and want more. And there is a huge effort in every circle, in every space, to cloud out the productive, innovative side of humanity and push people in a destructive, toxic direction. And in communist circles, that's wokeism. In libertarian circles, it's all kinds of crazy shit. In far right circles, it's the bullying. Right? I mean, the far right circles, right? The far right very much has the ideology of bullies. Tear down people that are different in some way. If someone deviates from the norm, tear them down, punish them, right? Not standing up to people you perceive as authority or powerful, but beating down people you perceive as weaker than you, puffing yourself up by picking up. There's very much a bullying mindset in the right. Well, that's not how you get economic growth. And you don't get it through wokeism and tear it down and cancel culture. You don't get it from that either. And the crazy stuff, the drugs and all the stuff they push in libertarian circles, you don't get it. But really, all the dissent in the modern world, it is really just an assertion of human beings' desire for economic growth, manifesting itself in different ways. The far right, the libertarians, and the left, and the Marxists. If you look at the essence of what all of these movements are really, the most pure interpretations of them are pushing, they are pushing growth. They are pushing pro-growth politics. And imperialism is so desperate to do that, it has infiltrated all of these different circles and clouded out that message with some form of toxicity. And on the far right, it's hate, ethnic bigotry, bullying, etc. In libertarian circles, it's libidinal release, rebellion, drugs, sex, all kinds of, whatever you want to call it, hedonism, all kinds of things. And in communist circles, it's that endless spirit of rebellion and Oedipal and tear things down and all of that. But essentially, all three of these movements are one manifestation of humanity's drive to build. Right? And this is the truth that we understand as innovationists. We understand that. And that the only way we can really get growth is we do need a rationally planned economy. Right? But that planned economy will have room for a market sector in it. And people's freedom has got to be allowed for. And people need to be loyal to each other. And there needs to be a sense of community. And that, libertarians have part of the truth. The far right has part of the truth. And Marxism has part of the truth. But Marxism is caught up in the rebellion issue and the tear everything down rebellion. And in order for Marxism to really be successful, Stalin and the Soviet Union, they had to become somewhat conservative. They had to, have elements of community and loyalty and nationalism, all these things that we associate with the far right. That's what they had to do in order to make the Soviet Union successful. They defeated Trotsky, etc. And, if you look at it, right, libertarians, they want economic growth. And but they have the delusion that you can get it from the free market. They believe in flim-flam neoliberal economics, that the free market will magically create growth. It will not, right? But they believe that, right? And on top of that, the far right, they believe in community, loyalty to your people, loyalty to your country, and all of that. And that's all good. But then it gets distorted. It gets turned into tear down somebody else's country, destroy somebody else's community, denigrate nonconformity, punish people. Yeah, and it gets all distorted in a lot of ways. But all three of these movements, all three of these dissident movements are just expressions of various aspects of the pro-growth aspects of humanity. When it really gets down to it, there is the drive to create and build and construct, and there are all the forces of evil that are trying to destroy that and hold back humanity and prevent human innovation and creativity from soaring. And this understanding that we have, this is a new innovation. We're not classical. We're not communists. We're not communists, right? Communists are doing the red flag thing. Communists are LARPing the 20th century. We're doing what they're doing in China. We're doing what they're doing all around the world in countries that have broken out of imperialism. And we're pro-growth. We're a pro-growth movement, demanding a government of action to fight for working families. We're innovationists, right? And we are the essence of what communism should be, what the good in communism is. That's us. The good in libertarianism. That's us. The good in what the far right people that love their community and love their families. We are all the good in these dissident movements combined into one, and we have purged the bad. We don't believe in the free market. We don't believe in racism or supremacism. We don't believe in woke insanity and rebellion. We're the good in communism. We're the good in nationalism. We're the good in libertarianism, all packed into one. That's what innovationism is. And our movement, innovationism, we are so powerful because we're all the good. We are all the good from all the dissident movements, and we've purged out the evil, right? We don't have to defend the cultural revolution. We don't have to celebrate the guillotine and permanent revolution and all of that. We don't have to promote drug use. We don't have to promote free market neoliberalism. We don't have to promote racism. We don't have to promote supremacism. We can take the good instincts, the pro-growth instincts of all these different movements and combine them into one powerful movement against globalism, imperialism, demanding justice for working families, demanding a government of action that fights for working families, demanding rational planning of the economy so that we can build and construct and rise to whole new levels. We are far more powerful than any libertarian organization could be. We are far more powerful than any communist organization could ever be. We are far more powerful than any far right or nationalist organization could ever be, because all of those ideologies are going to be bogged down by the distortion that comes with them. And we have purified the pro-growth drive of humanity into one ideology, into one mission. And that is what makes us powerful. And that's what makes innovationism so important. That's what makes the Center for Political Innovation so brilliant. We have found the evil in communism and rejected it. We see the evil in libertarianism and rejected it. We see the evil in the far right and we've rejected it. And we've taken what is good from all these spaces and we've put it into one. Now, that may be a lot for a lot of people listening to this to take. A lot of people that are hearing this might say, well, that's crazy, Caleb. There's no evil in communism. Communism's all good. Well, been there, done that. And you might say, oh, I'm a libertarian, Caleb. The free market can create. I'm sorry, been there, done that. Oh, Caleb, the far right is not so bad. No, been there, done that. I'm telling you, we have something new and exciting here, and we understand economics. And that's really what's important. I'm not interested in waging a culture war. I'm really not interested in it, and, we had a great CPI meeting on Saturday where we had, a lot of time for open floor. One thing that came up was this issue of exercise. This is a great example, right? This is an issue that is not an issue. Not an issue, right? That apparently fitness culture, a lot of woke people think fitness culture and being athletic is somehow right wing. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. However, why is that? Well, it's because, first of all, the manosphere, they call it, Jordan Peterson, all that is very self-help oriented. And that, physical fitness, people are physically fit in the military, things like that. People think that's right wing. Well, why should being physically fit be any ideology, right? I mean, and if your ideology says you can't be physically fit because that's right wing, that's messed up. However, it is true that there is a lot of bullying and shaming of people who are disabled, bullying and shaming of people who are overweight, that is popular in right-wing circles. Well, that's not good either. If people could just be fucking nice to people, none of this would be a thing, right? If people could exercise and be nice to people who maybe are not in good shape, everything would be fine. If people could, and it's like so many of these issues, it's a non-issue, right? So the idea is that if you're physically fit and you're into fitness, you're supposed to become right-wing, and you're supposed to get mad about plus size models and they're modeling poor body type behavior. And, and if you're left wing, you're supposed to scream about fat phobia and just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. Leave it alone. Right? Be nice to other people. Be nice to people. How about that? I generally think we should have a government and a society that encourages fitness. But I also think that, if someone's overweight or if someone can't exercise, has got a health issue, or if somebody just for whatever reason, they're more bookish oriented, they don't want to, just leave it alone. And it's like they want us talking about anything but what matters. Right. And so when you see libertarians fighting with communists, when you see communists fighting with libertarians, you see far right people fighting with, it's always a fight like this, right? Just basic rules for life. Don't ever hate anybody because of their ethnicity or their religious faith or whatever, right? I don't hate anybody because they're a Muslim. I don't hate anyone because they're a Christian. I don't hate anyone because they're Jewish. I don't hate anyone because they're white or black. Don't hate people on the basis of their identity. How about that? That's pretty basic, right? Don't bully or denigrate people for whatever shortcomings they might have. Generally want a government that is working to try and improve things for all of us, and just be nice to people. I mean, and people get all caught up in all these niche things, right? And they're all just dead ends. They're all just toxic downward spirals that lead you away from saying what we need, which is we need a government of action to fight for working families. We need the banks and the factories and the industries and the centers of economic power to be rationally organized to serve society so that human growth and innovation can expand to higher levels. That's what we need. We need the oil and natural gas and coal and timber to be rationally organized so that the wealth from it goes into the public budget. We need a national bank that strategically assigns credit to revitalize and build up communities. We need an economic bill of rights to hire the unemployed and put them to work doing useful things, and an economic bill of rights so we invest in our population and we start providing healthcare and education and jobs, because we see that as a way to build up and build a stronger society. And if you can get past all the other things, all the negativity that you'll find in libertarian circles, all the negativity you find in far right circles, all the negativity you find in communist circles, and if you just focus on that, we need a government of action to fight for working families. We need to reject the march toward World War III and the emerging low-wage police state. We need a government that will organize the economy to unleash human growth and innovation. We need to build and construct. If you can focus on that, we can build the movement we need to build. That's what we need to do. And there's a million car accidents waiting to suck you into them, to try and get you to do something else. No, to fight with this or fight with that or fight. And just, if we can just focus on that, we're fine. Right. And, I see these car accidents happening. Good for them. I mean, we have nothing to do with any of these car accidents. And I will say we must actively resist any effort to draw us in to these car accidents, right? Just don't, right? Just don't, right? There are a lot of people that are looking to pull us one way and pull us another way and make us part of their ugly shit. We have nothing to do with their ugly shit. We want no part in it, and just look the other way. Just look the other way. That's what I urge people to do. Just don't get down in the mud and just focus. Just focus and understand that there is going to be there will be a million efforts to distract us. And that the reason CPI exists is to get shit done. That is why the Center for Political Innovation exists. We don't exist to entertain you on the internet. If you don't find this entertaining, I'm sorry. Go watch a movie. We exist to get shit done, and we have been getting shit done. And if you look at our timelines of what we have done a shit ton. And the Uhuru movement really appreciates all the work that we have done to support them. And, we have been out there raising peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula, raising peace with Russia louder than anybody. We exist to get shit done, and we are getting shit done, and we're going to keep getting shit done. And the more that we don't get wrapped up in the silly car accidents, and the more that we just focus on getting the job done, and the more we don't get wrapped up in, is fitness fascist or fat phobia, or the more that we focus on what we believe, the better. And we are in a new stage. We are innovationists. And that's the only way we can get out of the mud, right? We got to stop pretending that we can just, purify something else. We can purify something that's already there, and it'll just work. If you just do it right, if you just do something from 100 years ago, and if you just get it right, no, it's not how things are going to work. Not how things are going to work. So yesterday, we made this video. Peter Coffin made this video. I filmed the narration, but Peter edited this together, just kind of highlighting the work that we did in, around Russia, specifically like a little mini rally we did in Minneapolis, just a 2-minute piece. Then from there, we'll do the roll call. And then I'll start answering people's questions. So if you got anything for me to answer in the second half of the show, Rumble Rant or Cash App, here we go. Trump is set to speak to the Russian president tomorrow. And I'm proud to say that we, the Center for Political Innovation, have had a lot to do with that. Ever since the Ukraine war began, we've been in the streets loudly saying Russia is not our enemy, calling for negotiations, etc. And recently, when we were in Minneapolis for a small workshop we did, we figured we couldn't leave town without doing that. And so myself and Penny and Gabby, we went to downtown Minneapolis with a big banner.
We're here in front of the Spoon Bridge in Minneapolis to support peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. We have confronted our government multiple times.
And I must say we got a very, very positive response. Minneapolis is supposed to be a Democrat Party city. Minneapolis is pretty woke, so to speak, but there seemed to be overwhelming support for our message of peace with Russia. People were honking their horns, giving thumbs up, a wide variety of folks. People that looked like they were Trump supporters, people looked like they were young urban professionals. It was really, really great to see how sympathetic people were to our message of peace with Russia. It was also great to hear our members. One of the great things about having these little speak out rallies is that our members get a chance to speak. And Gabby got on the bullhorn, gave her perspective.
We don't need this war. We might not agree everything what Trump is doing, but we need peace.
Penny got on the bullhorn, gave her perspective as a local from Minneapolis, a mom, a working person who doesn't want her son to get killed in the war.
Jobs for Americans, healthcare, schools, not billions of dollars. Pat the pockets of the warmongers.
I was there. I spoke as well.
Why are they cutting services for Americans? Why did people get left stranded after the hurricane in North Carolina, but they've got billions of dollars for Ukraine?
We need to raise this message everywhere we can, and we have as CPI. We're building a community of solidarity and resistance. That's what the Center for Political Innovation is. We're not a fandom. We're headed out to LA soon. We're having our big convention in July. We're a real community of people working together to build a movement. We demand a government of action that fights for working families. So yeah,
So yeah, why don't we do our roll call? Names and locations, names and locations. But I would really urge people to start getting on the Rumble. Start getting on Rumble. There's a good crowd here on YouTube, and we appreciate that. But let's, we'll do the roll call. Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. John McCarthy in Chicago, and thank you for all your Cash App. There we go. Thank you. Lawrence Johnson in Chicago, Jason in Wisconsin, Ed in Louisville, Ricky in Texas, Oakland, California, Mouse, San Francisco, Jenny in Cincinnati. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Rice from Adelaide, Australia, Patch in Arizona, Mark Jones in Utica, New York, Dan in LA, April, and Chris in Salt Lake City. Gavin, keep your focus. Get ready to rumble. Ian in Chester, England. Grady in Los Angeles, Gavin in Moline, Illinois, in your heart and spirit. Oh, thank you. Tampa Bay, Florida, Chris out in Kew Gardens, New York, U.S. Pakistan bankrupt, Ajit. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Names and locations, folks. Names and locations. Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. Who is with us? Courtney in Northern Virginia. Sarah Jackman in Joseph, Oregon. Colin in Greensboro. Penny in Minnesota. Shout out to you and all the hard work that you're doing. Near Ann Arbor, University of Michigan. Very, very good. Eugene, Oregon. Right? That's a city famous for anarchists, I think, right? Eugene, right? Isn't there like a college there or something? Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. Anybody else? Jamestown, New York. Fredzid. Very good. Names and locations. Anybody else? Names and locations. Cecilia in Joliet, Illinois. Very, very good. Right. I was out near Joliet a couple months ago, if I remember correctly. Brooklyn, Phil High in the house. Boycott YouTube advertisers. Well, there you go. Well, that's one good thing about this channel is it's ads free. So think about that, right? Now that we're demonetized, you can watch anything with no ads on here because it's demonetized. So there you go. I don't generally want to ask you to tweet stuff. Do tweet at Team YouTube. At Team YouTube, restore Caleb. That would be nice. That would be nice. So yeah, the way we're doing this is, send questions on Rumble, Rant, or Cash App. Cash App, Caleb Maupin 22. So that's the way we do it. We're going to start answering questions. And in a little bit, we're going to go to Rumble only. So start getting on Rumble. I think we'll do a couple questions that we'll get through, and then we'll go to Rumble. That's the way we'll do it. So we'll start out with the Rumble rants that have come in. 2 Rumble rants have come in. Rice says, Australian mainstream media and politics critique regarding the United States increased significantly over the past week. This seems to be in the service of Western globalism. Will this stick? Yeah, I would assume that that's because of Trump diverging from mainstream imperialism. Look, there's a whole thing about France wants to, the representative of France was saying to send the Statue of Liberty back, and there's a clear difference. Trump, it looks like, is trying to end the war in Ukraine, and globalism, imperialism, the prevailing trend of the former colonial powers. They want to continue the war in Ukraine, and they see Russia as being a focus. And Donald Trump is being kind of a rogue and thinking narrowly in the interests of his crew within U.S. imperialism. And because of that, he's looking to negotiate an end to the war that will be in the economic interest of him and his buddies. And they don't want that. They don't want that. So, and I noticed that, that at this point, there is a difference between the United States and especially the countries from the British Commonwealth. I mean, Trump antagonizing Canada and, antagonizing Greenland, all of that seems to indicate there's an inter-imperialist rivalry in the works. That's good, right? And we want Trump to fight with Canada. We want Trump to fight with France. We want Trump to fight with Britain. It's good when Trump is fighting with other colonial countries, other imperialist countries, and not with Russia and not with China. That's good. That's good. We want division in the imperialist camp. And the future of the United States is not with Germany. It's not with France. It's not with Britain. The future of the United States is with the East. It's with Russia and China. That's why we want Trump to build the peace bridge over Alaska, connecting Alaska over the Bering Sea to Russia. That's why we want trade with North Korea, trade with Russia, trade with China. That's what we want. So, we're very disappointed by everything that Trump is doing when it comes to the Middle East. And it's very dangerous. We're hoping to see him end the war in Ukraine soon. And I would assume that Trump, kind of stepping out of the mainstream of imperialist politics is why he's being demonized. Now, Gavin says, as someone exposed on Twitter the other day, Jordan Peterson is a deprogrammer. This shouldn't be a surprise, as he blames the world's problems on communists and Christian fundamentalists. I didn't know that Peterson had it in for Christian fundamentalists. That's interesting. I knew the anti-communism of Jordan Peterson is just standard. He says things like, oh, the Tsarist Russia was a paradise compared to what the Bolsheviks created. It's like, the Soviet Union had problems, but it wiped out illiteracy. It was electrified. It was fully electrified. Women were in the military. Women got college degrees. Like, you can't say that. You can't say Tsarist Russia was a paradise compared to, you just can't. And he says these things, and his audience is full of conservatives who, yeah, communism bad. Yeah, what could be wrong with that? Jordan Peterson is irritating. I've done whole streams just taking apart Jordan Peterson. But that's interesting. I didn't realize he was now targeting Christian fundamentalists. That is very, very interesting. That is very, very interesting. And I'd be curious, Gavin, if you could forward me some of the material from Peterson attacking that. Because generally he panders pretty hard to the C.S. Lewis stuff. He panders pretty hard to like the more intellectual Christian apologetics in my experience. So that's interesting to me. That's very, very interesting to me. There's many layers to all of this. There are many, many layers. I am writing my book on Khrushchevism right now. And the third chapter of the book is now available online. It's about Jerry Healy and how the deep state took apart Jerry Healy's Workers' Revolutionary Party in the 80s. And I used that as kind of an example of Khrushchevism in practice. Even though Jerry Healy was a Trotskyite, he was doing so much to oppose Israel, to stand with Gaddafi, etc. And I wrote a really long piece about Jerry Healy. And that's the third chapter of my book. There's 4 chapters in it total. And it's a short book that'll be out pretty soon. About Khrushchevism, because if we're going to build an organization, the Center for Political Innovation, if we're going to build a real organization, we have to be prepared for every attack that might come. And they have really done a huge amount of psychological manipulation. The second chapter of my book is called "It's a Cookbook." Right? You ever see? There's an episode of The Twilight Zone. And it's from 1961, I believe. And it's about these aliens, and they come to Earth and they start feeding people. And they cure cancer, and they do all these great things. And they ask them, why are you doing that? And it's because, they point to this. We have this book. It's called To Serve Man. It's just so great. And so they're going to take some of these humans back to the home planet. And as they're lined up to get on the spaceship, this woman who's been translating the book runs toward them. It's a cookbook. It's a cookbook. Right. And that's how they want you to think. Right. They have brainwashed us all to think that if anyone comes along and is building a real movement to stand up and oppose this, if a real community, it's a cookbook. Right. And that's how and that's why organizations fall apart. And that's why wrecker shit works so effectively. It's a cookbook. Everyone's predisposed to think that everything good is a cult. Everything good is mind control. And so you just have to be afraid. Right. And all your friends are out to betray you, and don't trust anybody, and everyone's going to stab you in the back. So really, you should just stay at home and look at your phone all day and never be part of anything and never believe in anything, because it's all a cookbook. right? And that is a really, really big part of how the liberal order is controlling people in our time. There is no truth. There is nothing. There is no truth. There's nothing to fight for. There's nothing to believe in. It's all a cookbook. And if we're not prepared, if we are not prepared to fight It's a Cookbook head on, and if we're all not actively battling against the parts of ourselves, that want to shout it's a cookbook and wreck, we're not going to be able to build an organization. That's what I say. CPI, are we, it's really weird, right? If you measure us purely in terms of dues paying members, we're certainly much smaller than we once were. But in terms of people who come to our Saturday meetings every Saturday, we're much larger than we once were. I mean, we barely have a Saturday meeting go by where there's not 22, 25 people there. Our members are very active, whereas there was a time when we had 160 members, we had almost over 200 members. But in terms of people who actually showed up and did anything, we were lucky we got 10 people to come. And that's the thing, is it's like, we are becoming more potent every day because we're getting shit done. We have an organization that can do things, and we know what we're doing, and we are inoculated and prepared for what the enemy throws at us. And the enemy has thrown everything in the kitchen sink at us. And each time they throw stuff at us and we maneuver around it, we become stronger. And the Khrushchevism book, right? This is really understanding the psychological warfare of imperialism and the way they dismantle organizations and the way that they actively try to incite people's fears and traumas and terrify people and just incite people. And if we're not actively fighting against that, we'll crumble in the face of that. But now we're going to have a whole orientation about how to deal with It's a Cookbook, right? How to deal with Khrushchev's secret speech, how to deal with all of this. I mean, we're understanding, we're getting more potent and more effective every day. And I'm really, really proud of that. Now, we got the questions that have come in on Cash App, and I'm going to do like 2 of those, but then we're going to go on to Rumble. We got another Rumble rant, so we'll do that first. Chad is courting an alliance of Sahel states, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, for membership. Well, that is good, and that's Penny. And she said that on Rumble. And that's good. That's very, very good, because we need such an alliance to exist. We absolutely need such an alliance to exist. And a number of West African countries broke the chains of French colonialism. The military that had a relationship with Russia got rid of the government that was a puppet of colonialism and asserted the economic independence, right, of a number of West African countries. And based on the desire for economic growth. And this is a new wing of the global anti-imperialist movement. We got Bolivarianism in Latin America, Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua. We've got the axis of resistance in the Middle East. I think you know who I'm talking about. We've also got Russia. We've got China. And it looks like we've got these countries in Africa. And I know Penny has an article about some of the developments in Burkina Faso that is being published. I'm really looking forward to Penny's article about that. So on that note, so I'm going to start answering the questions that people sent via the Cash App. But I'm going to do that on Rumble. Basically, you need to get on Rumble, folks. You need to get on Rumble. Because I'm gonna shut down the YouTube here, and we're just gonna go on to Rumble. So sign up for Rumble right now. On Rumble, there's 70 people watching this on Rumble right now. There's 106 people that are left here on YouTube. 106 of you, please go to the Rumble. Go start watching on Rumble, because YouTube is screwing us over, and we're gonna just start doing more and more on Rumble. Just sign up for an account. It's free, and you can chat on Rumble. Get on Rumble. Here's the link. Thank you, Carter. And we're gonna do this on Rumble. So I am gonna deactivate the YouTube, and we're just gonna continue the rest of this on Rumble. See you all on Rumble. So yeah, we're just gonna remove YouTube.